Of course, Pinehurst is the home of American golf, and while lots of guys like coming here, ladies golf is also huge in this area and around the country. We have with us Louise Ball, who's the LPGA Professionals President, here on Paradise in the Pines. Welcome to Paradise in the Pines, a podcast about the people, places, and stories that make this the home of American golf. Brought to you by the Pinehurst, Southern Pines, Aberdeen Area Convention and Visitors Bureau. And thanks for joining us on Paradise in the Pines. We have with us Louise Ball, who's the LPGA Professionals President. Thanks for joining us inside Paradise in the Pines.
Thank you, Phil. I'm happy to be here.
You were referred to us by a colleague, Melissa Holt, who works for us as Vice President. She's part of a group that you have here in the Pinehurst area, Women in Golf. There's really no formal title to it, but talk about that group and how you ladies get together and talk about golf, or awesome. Really anything.
Yeah, well, so I'm new to the group, which I'm happy about. I met Cassie Tully recently last November up in Winchester, Virginia. And we started talking, and we both realized we lived in Pinehurst, which was, how the golf universe gets really small sometimes. Yeah. So she was telling me about the group, and I said, hey, I would love to participate. I love everything golf. If you guys ever want to do like a clinic or something like that. So my first time with them will be next week. So I'm looking forward to it.
And so we see here on the set, you have your Boston Celtics,
of course,
glassware here. You're from the Boston area.
Yes.
Talk about being a Boston fan, growing up in Boston, and maybe how you picked up the game of golf in that area.
Yeah. So as you guys know, it's not a year-round sport up there. And I didn't play golf till I was out of college. So
okay.
My parents are big sports fans. Specifically, my dad was big athlete, grew up in Needham, Massachusetts. And we had a store in Dover that was an old-fashioned pharmacy. And so my parents had season tickets to the Boston Bruins from 1968 to 1972. And if you know anything about Boston sports, that was the Bobby Orr, Zito era, yeah. Stanley Cups, etc. So we had a lot of posters up around the top part of our store above where people would sit at the counter. And it wasn't just Bruins, but it was also Celtics, Patriots, and everything. And the funny thing is we sold our store in, I think, 2000. And right after that is like when the Red Sox won the World Series and then the Patriots got really hot. So we suffered through a lot of tough times, but I just grew up around sports my whole life. So graduated from college and moved home and didn't have anything else to do. So my dad was an avid golfer. My brother had joined the Army. And so my dad kind of lost his golf buddy. So yeah. I was interested in the game, had taken it as a PE credit my senior year of college. And so got home. Got the clubs, the shoes, the clothes, the whole setup. I think my parents were really excited. I wanted to learn. So that's how I got into it. So my dad was my first teacher.
Awesome. We'll talk about, we talked about before we did the podcast that you went to school at Shenandoah University up in the Shenandoah Valley of Virginia, and I went to James Madison, so we have a little bit of similarity there. Talk about being at Shenandoah University, that experience. You're actually in the Basketball Hall of Fame at that school.
I am, and I know when you met me, my height doesn't show that I'm really a basketball player, but so, I grew up in a small town outside of Boston, and I didn't want to go to a really big university. I was interested in helping people and in sports, so I majored in therapeutic recreation and minored in psychology. And when I went to visit Shenandoah, it was just had the right feel for me. It wasn't too big. I wanted to be far enough away from home so I wouldn't be tempted to go home all the time because I just wanted to immerse myself. So it was about an 8-hour drive. Down 84 and then 81, made the trip many times, but enjoyed it there, did 4 years there, graduated in 1985. And like I said, I worked for a little bit, and then I worked for my family at the store, and that's when I got interested in golf. So my sister and I worked at the counter, got off work at 2 o'clock, and played golf until dark. So that's how it started.
Talk about your rise in the game of golf. You're currently the LPGA Professionals President. So talk about your journey in the game of golf and how it led you to where you are today.
Yeah, one of my favorite
That's a big question. But.
Well, no, it's really one of my favorite topics. I still say when I joined the LPGA in 1997, it's still the best decision I've ever made in my life as far as career goes. So almost 30 years in the LPGA, and we have the tour side, which I think most fans know about. I hope they do. If you don't, you should watch. And then we have the professional side, which is the grassroots, right? So we grow the game. We do a lot of different things. So I got involved there took my playing test. It's, similar to the PGA. You take your playing test and then you go through the schooling. Yeah. So did that, became a Class A member in 2001. And, really just had my head down, did a lot of coaching, loved junior golf. So I did a lot of, I did our LPGA USGA girls golf program. I've had probably thousands of girls through my programs over the 20 years that I was a site director in different places. So I started at Winchester Country Club. So I went back to my roots where I went to college.
Winchester, Virginia?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, okay.
And worked at Winchester Country Club for 5 years and started the junior program there. And I think I had 90 kids when I left after 4 years, and still keep in touch with a lot of them today. So that's kind of where I started. And that was nice. Again, I'm big on family. So that really felt like a family atmosphere to me. So it was really a good fit that I landed there. And then I met my husband, Tom, who was a member there. So, when we got really serious, he ended up moving to Knoxville, Tennessee for his job. So, I followed behind him and moved to Knoxville in 2001. And then I knew I wanted to just teach when I get into golf. It was nice that I started at a private club, so I got to learn everything about the golf business, running tournaments and taking care of the members and even, changing the spikes out on the shoes. That was a whole evolution when it went to soft spikes. I might be dating myself there, but good times at the club. But when I moved to Tennessee, I thought I just want to teach. So I looked for that type of job and landed at a public course with a really nice driving range and started Tennessee Golf Academy. So,
awesome.
Mm-hmm.
You've been in the business for 30 years. Mm-hmm. I mean, golf has grown exponentially. And I tell people COVID's probably the best thing that ever happened because of social distancing and people really took up the game.
Yep.
We'll get to that in a moment, but talk about the 30 years, especially for women's golf. I mean, you've probably seen this grow in that sector so much in the last 30 years. Talk about that change and that progression for women to really take up the game of golf.
Yeah, that's a great question. And I think with the LPGA, everybody thinks, we just teach women. Well, yes, women are comfortable with us because we are women, right? Mm-hmm. But we do teach everybody. But watching the evolution of the game for women, we've always been in it. I feel like we haven't been recognized as part of it as much as we are now. And I think that's just across all the sports. Women's sports is just exploding. So COVID definitely brought a lot more people into the game. And it's so popular. And I think women, we like to be around other women. So it's really great to, LPGA has a lot of great initiatives like Golf 101 that our members can take the blueprint of kind of how we set up the 5-hour class, and they can run it however they want to. So there's a lot of flexibility in that. We have Invite Her, because everybody just wants to be invited, and I think it's a nice way, and that's kind of, how we started off the broadcast with the networking group here. Let's invite people to come out. I'm not even sure. I have no background on the ladies that are coming next week to our first clinic, other than Cassie and now Melissa. So I'm looking forward to meeting them, but it was an easy ask, because they knew it was going to be a group setting. So I think, that's a big thing with it. And just the accessibility and people realizing, like even at Pinehurst, they now have tees that are more in the fairway, like the yellow tees. And it's, they're under 5,000 yards. And if you're a lady that's new, or if you're getting older, like as women, we don't have anywhere to move up to, right? So men can start at the back tees, and as they get older, they can move up a little bit, and then they can move up a little bit more. Most of us start right at the front tee. So it's nice that places are now recognizing that we need that, right? And it makes it more user-friendly because, as we know, golf is hard.
Yeah.
So we want to make it easier and friendly and fun, and you don't have to keep score. So there's a lot of things that people don't realize to get in the game. You don't have to get in it like we see it on TV. You got to start somewhere.
And to that point, I mean, I think a lot of people, even guys, that have never taken up the game, to go out and play the big boy course, there's an intimidation factor. Sure. Talk about that from a lady's perspective. How do you get them eased into the game and make it fun so that they want to come back the next time?
Yeah, so I think you have to be creative. So I had a clinic that I used to do called Clinics with a Twist. And so it was an hour long. We played music, and we had a signature cocktail. So
there you go.
Maybe it was margaritas on the moss, and that was the putting clinic. Buckets and suds, and we'd be at the driving range, and we'd have craft beers. So just having something a little different. That's like, oh, okay. There's going to be 10 other women there. I can go do that. And it's funny because we are definitely wired differently, men and women, and I think we all know that. But they did an experiment when we were trying to figure out the curriculum for girls golf when it started a long time ago. And so they had a gym, and they had some mats set up, and they had cameras there, but they didn't have any adults. So they had the mat set up with a couple of clubs and a little thing of balls at each mat. And they had the boys come in, a boys group. They ran right over, picked up the stuff, started hitting the balls, competing with one another. It was just, that's what they did.
Yeah.
When the girls group came in, they looked, walked over to the bleachers, and sat down and waited for an adult to come to tell them what they were going to do that day. So that right off the bat showed us that, you can't teach us the same way, at least in the beginning. I think that's evolving now as, Title IX came in a long time ago, and there's more opportunities for girls. I feel like girls are becoming a lot more fearless, which is great. But I think a lot of that too is programming like girls golf, where we teach the girls confidence and how to be proud and hold their head up and not be afraid. So I think there's lots of good girl role models just growing up, turning into young ladies and becoming awesome. So.
I think even talking about ladies and role models, I mean, even Caitlin Clark in the WNBA,
exactly.
She loves golf,
right,
and is actually a pretty decent golfer.
Yeah,
I mean that's got to help too, just to help ease that getting into the game.
Yeah,
seeing somebody like her just she's just amateur and just loves to play.
Yeah, and that's one of the big focus for me and my presidency is growing our membership is one of my big goals, and the other one is just getting some cross pollination with let's get a video of one of our teaching professionals giving her a lesson or playing golf with her. Like any kind of things like that where we can jump on board with other sports that are really rising quickly will help us.
It's interesting because we talk about the Pinehurst area and girl and women's golf, and one thing that comes to mind is Peggy Kirk-Bell and the legend that she was at Pine Needles, and she was a member of the U.S. Women's Open in 2022. Talk about the Gfari. That's been going on for years. That's not a new thing, but talk about how important that is when it comes to ladies golf and what they're doing over there.
That's huge. First of all, I am just so blessed to be part of that team now, the coaching team over there. I feel like everything happens for a reason. I just moved here full-time almost 2 years ago, but I've been coming over here since 2005. So I've been around a long time, and I've always tried to get my foot in the door with teaching because I would drop everything in Knoxville if I ever could come over. It just didn't work out, but it has now, so I'm on that team. It is really fun. A lot of the ladies come back the same week every year because there's 6 of them. That you can choose from, but they kind of pick the same week because they like to see each other again.
Yeah.
So again, it's that camaraderie. It's that, hey, I have new friends in golf. It's very laid back, but they learn so much. But if they want to skip, one of the sessions and hang out in their room and take a nap, they can do that. So, and nobody does. But
or go have a cocktail.
Right, or go have a cocktail, exactly. And it's really neat. By the end of the week, we call it prom night, which I'd like to give it a different name, but it's hilarious. It's like a dance party, right? So we have dinner together. We've been together all week. By the end of the week, everybody's loosened up. The wine is flowing. We're having, we have a DJ. Pat and Peggy Ann, they give out the awards that they've accumulated for the week for putting or different scores that they have on their practice loop. And then the music starts, and it's wild. I mean, it's just really, really fun. And so that's really what it's all about is, golf can be intimidating. And people that come for the first time to Golfari, they're like, oh, my God, I didn't know it was going to be this much fun. Yeah. Right? So they're learning, but
great.
They're also relaxed and having a good time. And we group them by ability, so they feel comfortable with the people that they're with all week.
So I got to ask, since you assist over there, so there's a match between you, Sally Austin, and Donna Andrews. Who wins?
Wow. Well, probably Donna, 5-time major winner, I think, or 5-time winner, and she's won a major. She can still hit it really nicely. She does a lot of demoing during the Golfaris, but I'll tell you what, Sally's got the stick, and she can putt. So I don't know. I think on a good day, it could be really close. Depends on, how my putter's working that day, I think.
Well, I'm a Duke fan, and Sally, of course, taught at Carolina, so she's my favorite Tar Heel. We get along just fine.
Is there such a thing for
a
Duke fan?
Yeah. Well, there's an exception with Sally. There's a few others too. I don't like to admit it, but
okay.
But talk about the your current role with the LPGA. What's the biggest challenge that the organization faces?
Wow, good question. I think, still to this day, it's just visibility and I don't want to say respect, but just like having people realize like what we go through to get our training. Our education is teacher and instruction oriented, and we have a 3-part curriculum that our students go through and that our new members go through. It's a 16-week semester for the first one. I was on the global education team for a while. So I taught our level 1 and I learned stuff.
Yeah.
It's very research-based. It's very student-centered oriented, and it's really top-notch. And it's not just, what we think is right. We have experts from in the field from all over that have contributed to our curriculum. So by the time you get through your level 3 and you take your practical teaching evaluation, which is an in-person, you give 2 lessons and you're evaluated, and we have a whole criteria that they have to meet. Then you become a Class A member. So I think the biggest challenge is just getting that word out that we are highly trained and we are experts, and that we can teach everybody. Like I said a while ago, we don't just teach women. We love teaching women, but we're great with juniors. We have some juniors that have accelerated. We have, I think there were 16 girls golf members that played in the Augusta Women's National, the amateur.
Mm-hmm.
So, we can teach everybody. We teach tour players. So I think that's a challenge. And then the other challenge is we have members in 28 countries. So we've translated our curriculum into Korean, Japanese, Chinese, and we're getting ready to translate it into Spanish. So just trying to get that more global reach and keep us connected, that's a little bit of a challenge. But we're working on it.
You mentioned the Augusta National Women's Amateur, and I was blessed enough to go to the very first one. What an amazing
event!
An amazing event, and I forget the young lady's name from Wake Forest that won the first one.
Jennifer Kupcho.
Jennifer Kupcho. I've never seen even guys better. Woods from the fairway on 13. I know she eagled 13. She did another tremendous shot from the fairway to get on in 2 and 15.
Yes.
To see that in person and to watch her reaction to that, it was amazing. And it was just such a cool play because there weren't like 50,000 people there. The first one, there was only maybe 5,000 people, 10,000 maybe.
By design, too. Not because I couldn't have sold more because I wanted to go.
And now, now it's like
it's
very much in demand. So very much like the drive, chip, and putt, the women's Augusta National Women's Amateur. How much has that elevated women's golf and been significant in the growth?
I think that's been huge. Just anytime you can put a spotlight on women's golf and people that haven't watched it before, watch it. Like you said, even when you're there in person, I think just the sound of the compression of the golf ball with the irons and those woods like that, it just sounds different than how we do it. So just shining a light on any women that are great players, and then the great programs, that we have to grow the game, like the drive, chip, and putt and our girls golf program. We just celebrated our 1 millionth girl last year that went through our program.
Congratulations. That's great.
Thanks. So we're going for 1 million more in the next 5 years. So we're putting a big push on that. But, that's what it's all about, right? For us especially, is just that grassroots, growing the game, making people realize that you can enjoy golf at any level. You don't have to play in the ANWA someday. You can just, go to work and get a great job and, get out of the office and play golf with your peers. So
to localize that a little bit, this summer will be the 20th anniversary of the U.S. Kids Golf World and Teen Championships.
Okay, I didn't know that.
It has a longer history, but 20 years in Pinehurst.
Okay.
So when you see those youngsters, boys and girls,
they're incredible.
They're incredible, and it's amazing how, say, back in our time versus now, you see these kids and they're so well dressed, so well spoken. Their parents might be a little crazy at times because they're so passionate, but they love their kids. And how important is that to get that experience? At least if you're a competitive golfer, to come here in a setting like that where you've got people from all 50 states and 36 countries, and that parade of nations is something that if you've never been to Pinehurst to see that and be a part of that, it's like watching an Olympic parade. It's incredible. Talk about
It's probably almost better. I mean, not that I've been in an Olympic parade, and that is pretty spectacular, but to see the kids, what they have to do to get to Pinehurst, first of all, they have to compete on their local tours. They have to accumulate points. I know the parents are driving them all over the place sometimes, which is just, it's kind of a family dedication thing. But to end up being able to come here is just a huge motivator, because the kids talk about it, and it's received a lot of press. And I love how they just trade pins with each other. Yep. And you're right, the outfits are they have better swag than we do,
right?
But it's pretty awesome, and it's really cute too. At the same time, I had a girl, Kennedy, and know that qualified many times for it, and I caddied for her one year, and it was just such a cool experience to have her name on my back and carrying her little bag around and everything. It was pretty awesome to be part of it on the inside. So great draw for junior golf.
As we record this, it's a couple days after Bryson DeChambeau came to Pinehurst for the dedication of a plaque that commemorated his iconic and historic shot from the bunker on the 72nd hole. The
greatest shot of his life.
The shot of my life in the 124th U.S. Open, which was absolutely tremendous to watch in person. I mean, and see him. The point I'm making is that the Stanford women's golf team was there, and Meghna Gagne was talking to Bryson, and Bryson was engaged with them and interested in what they're doing. So how important is like PGA Tour guys and guys that like they recognize, they know these ladies that play on the collegiate level and the professional level? How is important for their validation from somebody like Bryson DeChambeau and other professionals that recognize the greatness of the women's game?
Yeah, great question. And that's something that we talk about, a lot at the LPGA is how do we get our superstars to be that big of a superstar like Bryson is and like Rory is and Tiger was and all that. Or I guess Tiger still is, supposedly. But, I think it's important because game recognizes game, right? So, and when we had one of the first times that we had like the women playing with the men, that got a lot of coverage, and that was great. And now we have the Grant Thornton, which is right after our CME and down in Naples in November. And I know all the players really love playing in that, and that gets viewed, a lot because people want to see how are the women stacking up against men. It's always going to be that way, right? But I think when you look at some of the stats of our top players on the LPGA Tour, they're actually better than the PGA Tour. They're more fairways hit. They hit more greens. The proximity of the hole is closer. There's a lot of really good stats out there, and I think that's where the women's game has to kind of catch up, with DraftKings and all the betting that you can do now.
Yeah.
You have to have really good stats in order for that side of it to work. So we're really working on getting our stats, more consistent, having them at all the tournaments instead of just some. So things like that. So
I think most, say, casual fans to women's golf are very, very much aware of Nelly Korda, number one player in the world. How much has she been a great ambassador, like from the inside? What kind of person is she like, and what does she like to work with, and how much is she kind of elevating the women's game? Yeah,
so Nelly's a great ambassador for the game. It is nice to have, I guess, just as a U.S. citizen, it's nice to have a USA born player be the number one. We haven't had that in a long time. So I don't know, just getting more eyes on kind of what they're doing outside of golf too would be helpful. She went to the Met Gala and had on this beautiful dress and was on Instagram, but like things like that, if they can get blown up a little bit, I just think she's rather private, as a lot of big superstars are. So I don't think we know, a lot about her, but she's certainly fun to watch play.
Yeah.
Can hit shots like nobody I've seen before. And she has the total package. Obviously, she had a historic run last year, as you guys probably know, 5 in a row, including a major. So she's the real deal. So it's been fun to watch her rise. And then, Rose Zhang and Allison Lee and some of the other players that are a little bit newer on the tour. Also, Rose came out and won her very first event. Who does that? So women's golf is really awesome.
You spent a couple decades in Knoxville. Talk about moving to Pinehurst. What prompted the move, and how much do you love living in the home American golf?
First of all, I love it here so much. I came over here in 2005 with my husband, Tom, and he was playing in a tournament. So I played the practice round with him on number 8. And we came up over the hill on the 4th hole, and you see the lake there. That's actually the street that I live on now.
Okay.
And there were some homes being built, so we were playing with somebody that was local and just asked. We were kind of starting to think about buying a second home somewhere, just like a little vacation place. This was not on our radar screen at all. But once we found out what things cost here, which is really reasonable, I thought, well, who wouldn't want to live here?
Right.
So we rode around. He played in the tournament. I hired a realtor, and she took me around and showed me a bunch of places, and we ended up buying the very first house that I looked at out of about 40 that day. And we've been going back and forth since 2005. And it's weird how you drive over the mountain on I-40 and you get here and the pine trees, and it always gave me a different calm feeling when I would come here. And I would never want to go back home. But, then you get back to Knoxville and your life is great and you're teaching golf and you have an awesome career, so it's fine. But I would just feel different when I was here. So, the plan was to retire here someday. And not that I'm retired, but slowing down a little bit and doing some different things, with my leadership in the LPGA. So it is awesome being here. We joined Pinehurst. We joined the club. And, who can say they have 7 courses at their disposal? You never get bored of any of the courses. They're all awesome. The people here are great. We've met people from all over the place because a lot of people are like us. They're golf nuts and they wanted to land here. So it's fantastic.
Went to the Masters Thursday, this year's event, and was standing waiting at 5:30 in the morning with probably 10,000 people waiting to get in at 7 a.m. Was standing next to these 4 gentlemen from Singapore that had never been to the United States to play, and guess where they played? They played at Pinehurst.
Yeah, of course they did.
They played 10, 2, 4, and 8.
Yep.
And had a ball.
Yeah.
And so, and met several people throughout the day that, had Pinehurst shirts on, heard them talking about a trip to Pinehurst. Talk about the golf courses here. Obviously, you're a member of Pinehurst. I always like to kind of gauge, other, there's almost 40 golf courses within a 15-mile radius. Yeah. What other golf courses do you like? Well, obviously Pine Needles.
Well, Pine Needles, honestly, don't tell anyone. Pine Needles is my favorite.
Mid Pines is mine. Mr. Passion, I'm sorry. I love Mid Pines.
I do.
But I love Pinehurst as well. But yeah.
Yeah. Well, I would say number 8 and Pine Needles are a tie. I just like the peacefulness of golf, and 8 has no houses on it. Well, it has the cottages now, but they're in a nice location. And Pine Needles, you're just out there in nature, and it's amazing. I mean, it's a championship course.
Yeah.
We've had the Women's U.S. Open there several times. The history of Peggy Kirkbell and her family. The Golfari's going on for 50 plus years. They're still packed. They're doing something right.
Yeah.
So it's just everywhere you turn, you can see a golf hole from somewhere.
The U.S. Women's Open returns back to Pinehurst in 2029.
Yes.
We'll have the dual U.S. Opens, just like we did in 2014 with the men's and the women's. Talk about how exciting that is to see that once again. Yeah,
I can't wait for that. It was awesome the first time, and I know it's going to be amazing this time. I know a lot of people were worried about the condition of the golf course with 2 in a row, and it was
blazing hot.
It was blazing hot, as you can see from the pictures of the second one. There's a lot of brown, which is okay. I mean, I think the players know it's going to be a real test, the hardest test in golf, and they expect it. And Pinehurst rises to the occasion, and it's really amazing how because we were here in 2014. I thought, oh man, when I saw the bleachers going up this time and all the grandstands, they were 50 times bigger. And I thought, oh my God, there's going to be so many people here. You know what? As a citizen of the village, I hardly noticed a problem. Like the traffic circle was fine. They really do their research. They know where to put the parking lots. The busing was amazing. So I think it's a well-oiled machine here, and I don't think they're going to miss a beat with having 2 in a row. My buddy that works for the PGA Tour, I've known since 18. We went to James Madison together. He's usually working during the U.S. Open during the second week in June, Father's Day weekend, because he works with the Champions Tour mostly. But he came here. I got a chance to come here for a couple days for the U.S. Open, and we parked off of Morganton Road, kind of like down the first hole of number 1 or second hole number 1. And so I live in Whispering Pines. 10 minutes to get in, 10 minutes to get out. Yeah, he was like, amazing. There's 250,000 people here this week. Where are they? I know. And he's like, because he has the Players Championship every March, and he's like, it's an S show for parking there every year. And it's like, he even remarked, because it was cool to hear that from somebody that had never experienced that. Yes. Hadn't been to Pine. He'd never played golf in Pinehurst before, so we got a chance to play at another location during that week. And he was just blown away at how they
manage and operate that championship.
Yeah, it's not like we got super highways around here,
No.
right? We have all these little like country roads and everything, and it's amazing how the operation works.
But
It's
wait till 2029 because everything will be 4 lanes
Let's hope.
instead of 2 lanes. Oh, it will be. There are DOT projects ongoing
Yes.
before the 29 U.S. Open.
Yeah.
That can be even more efficient, but it's going to be even more efficient
Yeah.
for the 2029 U.S. Open. So, talking of the U.S. Open for 2029, USGA, we call it HQ2, headquarters 2, now with Golf House Pinehurst, World Golf Hall of Fame. Your old boss, I guess, Michael Whan, is now a big part of what's going on here in Pinehurst. Talk about your past with Mr. Whan and your relationship with the USGA.
Yeah, good question. First of all, I love the USGA. I've always been a member ever since I started playing golf. Worked with I call him Uncle Mike now because even though he's left us, and for those that don't know, he was the LPGA commissioner for 10 years and did an unbelievable job. We hated to lose him, but it's almost cool that he went with the USGA. If he was going to leave us and go somewhere, we're still, highly involved with the USGA, of course, because we're the LPGA. So it's nice to know we have Uncle Mike over there in charge, and he's taking good care of us still. And we still have him on speed dial if we want, and that's the kind of guy he is.
Great.
So it's kind of easy to see how the successful people become that successful. He's just accessible for us still, and it's great. We are in the process of looking for our next commissioner, and so Mike's been a little bit of a help there too for us, just bouncing some stuff off of him.
Sure.
So he's still involved, which is great. But love the USGA, and I'm embarrassed to say I haven't been through the museum yet.
It's an amazing experience.
I just need it to rain, so I'm not golfing and I'm not traveling somewhere else with the LPGA. But I've heard it's awesome.
It is incredible.
We're hosting the second LPGA USGA Girls Golf Championship, and there are girls coming from all over the world, like they did last year. It's at Pine Needles.
When is that?
It's the beginning of July.
Okay.
It's right after 4th of July. Yeah. It was an incredible event last year. It was almost like walking into an LPGA Tour event.
Awesome.
That's how good it looked and it was amazing. So it's coming back, and right after that, we have a Girls Golf Leadership Academy, which is our flagship program for our teenage girls, and it's a 2-day program that's all scholarship. And the girls come, and there's about 50 girls, and it's really leadership oriented and getting them to learn about themselves and how to get along with people that don't have the same leadership style as you. So it's a neat confidence building program that has some golf with it, but it's really leadership based. So I'm sorry I got off track. So I don't even know how I'm tying that in. But the USGA is a huge part of that part of our program. They have a leadership academy at their headquarters in Far Hills. So we're going to have one this year in Pinehurst right after the Girls Golf Championship.
Fantastic.
Yeah, so it's going to be awesome.
Well, Louise Ball, we appreciate everything you do for the women's game and the LPGA as a professionals president. Best of luck and continued success. We need to take it up sometime.
Yes, let's.
Always need a good excuse to play golf in Pinehurst.
I think there's, just being here is the excuse.
And we need to get you on the North Carolina golf panel. We rate the golf courses around the entire state. Sally Olson is part of that group.
To do that, actually.
So I'll have to talk to Kevin Bradford and nominate you to, it's great. We actually, our first event is at Woodlake Country Club here in a couple of weeks. And Chris Spence did a great job of redesigning that golf course. But again, thank you. It's been a pleasure to meet you and understand more about the women's game and enjoy Pinehurst. I didn't even ask you about your favorite restaurants. Let me ask you about that real quick. What are your 3 favorite restaurants?
Okay. 3 favorite restaurants. We love 195 in Southern Pines. We just went to the new 727 where Theo's
in the Village,
Well, first of all, we loved Theo's, and we were sad to see that go. But 727 is cool. It's got a cool vibe. The food is great. The cocktails are fun. So that's a good one. And we love Vito's in Southern Pines. If you want, the best veal parm you've ever had.
There you go.
And I feel like I'm a veal parm expert.
Yeah.
Vito's is unreal. So.
Well, you're from Boston, so you better like the veal. Good Italian food up in Boston
That's
too.
Right.
Well, good luck to the Celtics. I wasn't a huge Celtics fan growing up, but I love Jason Tatum. He's a Dookie, and so I can pull for the Celtics. And
thank you.
Who can deny Larry Bird? I mean, the guy was the man.
Well, we're going for a repeat, and so I'm looking forward to. I think the playoffs just started last night, so
yeah, they sure did.
Looking forward to that repeat. Banner 19. Let's go.
All right. Well, thanks, Louise Ball. Once again, appreciate your time here and joining us in Paradise in the Pines.
Thanks for having me.
If you want to know more about Pinehurst and the tourism in the Moore County area, go to our website, which is homeofgolf.com. If you want to watch our videos, including this podcast, go to our YouTube channel, which is Home of American Golf. This has been Paradise in the Pines, and we'll see you next time.